If you base a business decision on bad data, you could be driving your company into the ground. That's how bad it can get if you don't have good data quality. It can go down a very, very wrong path.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Kubrick Voices. I'm your host, Camilla, and I'm very excited today to be joined by Kirk Haslbeck, who's the VP of Data Quality at Calibra, as well as Kubrick's own Maria Robson, who's an Associate Principal in Data Management. Hello, both. Thanks so much for joining.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Hey, thanks for having me,
Pleasure.
Camila.
We're here today to talk all things data quality. I think it's a really growing conversation amongst Kubrick clients, just kind of starting to become of more prominence, but equally a pretty exciting space for our consultants to get interested in and kind of specialize within. So I'm really keen to get stuck in. And first of all, hear a bit from you, Kirk, in terms of your journey into the data space, and then specifically data quality. How did you find that? What was your sort of journey to into this kind of slightly more niche area of the data space, I suppose?
Sure, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me again, and happy to share. I have had the good or bad fortune of suffering every possible data issue that one can suffer. So I think that's what led me into the data quality space. My argument would likely be that most people do not dive into data analytics and think, man, I'd like to clean up a lot of data. That sounds like the best way to do it. Usually you dive into the space and you want to build something really cool. You want to build the next best analytical answer, model, BI report, machine learning algorithm, whatever it is. And that was definitely the case for me. And I was working on Wall Street at the time and building all of these financial models, trying to do some really cool things. But painstakingly, we always tripped over something simple. And it could be as simple as, I'll give a few examples, maybe the column schema of a database table changing from a number to a string, or something being added or dropped, or nulls being introduced. And what would likely happen is it would have this ripple effect downstream. And when we really asked ourselves an honest question, it was sort of like, well, as much as we really just want to build the next coolest spaceship, doesn't it seem like the root cause of all these proliferated errors down across the company could really be solved better by cleaning up the data upstream? And then even things that are not advanced could take advantage of them. So plenty more for us to discuss on that today. But ultimately, I think my goal at first was to be analytics and machine learning driven. And we ended up realizing that we could use those techniques, data mining, observability, all the things we'll discuss today, to actually solve the data quality problem. And I think that was the aha moment for us, where we said, oh, wait a minute, some of the techniques we're using for fraud detection and behavioral analytics could actually be applied to data quality, and it would help reduce all of the manual work we were doing at the time, being so reactive to all these data quality issues.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, taking you full circle on that journey, and hopefully helping a lot of other data-driven organizations to do the same. And now you're at Calibra. What was your journey into that? How did you kind of form a partnership with them, and now kind of head up Calibra's data quality tooling?
Yeah, happy to share. That was a fun journey for us for sure. We were all in our big corporate jobs, and myself and the co-founders, and we basically said, let's give it all away and go out and do data quality better than it's been done before, or at least so we hoped. And we had our own methodologies and thoughts around time series profiling and data mining and all these things that we could do to sort of forecast data quality issues. But it took a leap of faith of us just kind of throwing everything away, all the comforts of a modern world, and going door to door and starting over. So I was able to raise a small Series A round of financing and put a few people together, and then start this journey knocking on doors. And you always show up with your shiny new product that you hope is going to work, I guess, and you want to put it to the test. And some of those tests were so interesting for us. One example was a smart meter test, where they said, we have about 43 million smart meters out there in the market. Do you think we could find billing errors using this software? So he said, well, we got not a lot to lose, a lot to gain here, so let's try it. And we would turn on the software, and it replayed the first time and found that there was just a ton of billing issues in this case, but some of those were false. And what we realized was everybody uses more energy in December than November in this particular case, right? We don't know the data. We don't know the thing. The whole idea is that our software is going to help make this easy. But we realized if we stacked quarter over quarter, or what they call them like a month over a year, and looked at Decembers as compared to the last 4 Decembers, that the anomalies might become more apparent. And that's exactly what happened. And then the really interesting outcome from that scenario was there was about $30 million in billing errors that came out of this particular use case, things that were as large as a ski resort coming on and offline. And all of this turned out to be false. It was actually just meter readings that went haywire from kilowatt hours to megawatt hours. That was just one of the really kind of fun ones, but we had 10 of those probably that stacked up over time. And that helped us to just raise money, build awareness, and then kind of go to market and hone the product. So much so that in our portfolio of kind of 40 companies that investor had invested in, we quickly became sort of the leader in that portfolio. And we got the attention of a lot of US banks, a lot of other big institutions, and then eventually got the attention of the leader in the data catalog space, which is Calibra. And they reached out and said, I think we should join forces. We were hearing the exact same thing from a lot of our customers. They kept saying data quality is valuable, but it'd be more valuable if we could meld it, and kind of blend it into our catalog and governance process. And so I would say all of the signs, the investor community, the commercial community, customers, Calibra themselves, we all thought it was going to be a win-win. And now we have the tape to sort of tell that story after it's been about a year and a half. And we had an amazing, 500+% growth in new customer logos last year. Just faster than we can handle the growth is what it's been. So I think we were right about the market synergy. Still have a long way to go with integration and other things we're aimed to achieve. But we were absolutely right that the market wants lineage, quality, governance, all of those things to come together into a single data intelligence solution.
Absolutely. And I think at Kubrick, we're so thrilled to be partners in Calibra and completely understand that the terminology data intelligence is definitely the most kind of accurate way we found of describing what it does. So we're glad to have that in our vernacular at Kubrick as well. And Maria, just a bit of background on yourself, how you got into data management, and more specifically data quality, and kind of what led you into that space, and kind of what's been your journey there so far as well.
Yes, it's interesting. Every time someone asks me, why data quality? Why are you working in that space? I always give the same answer. It's basically the world is basically run by data nowadays, and it's growing exponentially, and it's only going to keep going that way. And every business decision in a company will be based on data, and that's just the way it is. Through my experience, through the work I've done, I've come to terms with it. I kind of had that eureka moment that it doesn't matter what data you have. If you base a business decision on bad data, you could be driving your company into the ground, and that's how bad it can get if you don't have good data quality. So for me, data quality is like the foundation. As soon as you've got your data, you need to make sure that your data quality is there, because if it's not, you don't know what's going to happen. And yeah, it can go down a very, very wrong path. The best way I can describe it is, let's say you had a cafe, a little bakery, something as small as that. You can collect your data from your sales. And if you don't collect all your data, if you don't keep all your receipts, keep all your transactions, you might end up making 10 times more Victoria sponges than you do carrot cakes, but carrot cakes is your best seller. So why would you make more Victoria sponges if carrot cakes are your best seller? You need to make sure that you're catering for your audience, and that's data quality in a nutshell. If you've got your good data quality, you'll make your carrot cakes rather than your Victoria sponges. So yeah, that kind of mentality has pushed me into the world of data quality, and it's something that I do see myself working in for quite a long time, because it is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. But it sounds like it's still, when you put it that simply and that deliciously, it's kind of the most obvious answer, right? I think you kind of both have spoken to it, it's critical and it's kind of obvious. But why is it still a kind of new conversation for some organizations? Kind of what's held back some businesses from understanding its importance, or is it just, ignorance is bliss sometimes, and you're kind of uncovering a whole new beast if you accept that you don't have data quality and you need to get a hold of it ASAP? I mean, floor is open for everyone to jump in on that one.
Well, for me, it's usually what I find, it's lack of understanding, like people not knowing or understanding how important it is. When you go into a project, people sometimes go full steam ahead. We've got this information, let's draw our analysis and let's get our conclusions, forgetting about your integrity, for your quality, maybe forgetting about your lineage and whether that's correct, that type of thing. And all those things that kind of need to be tagged on with data. You can't just have data as it is. You've got to have your lineage in place. You've got to have your quality in place in order to draw those decisions. And I think it's kind of stepping back when you're starting something new or when you want to draw these conclusions. Right, okay, before I can actually do this, what data do I have? Is it good? And those questions I don't think are always asked. That's my experience anyway. I'm sure, Kirk, you have a lot more experience than me.
Well, what we believe is we have sort of these strong beliefs, but clearly we needed that to go out and think that we were going to reshape the category. So we strongly believe in time series profiling. And that might sound a little technical, but it basically means don't take all of last year's data and put it in one dot on your line chart, but replay it for 365 days or whatever the time or rhythm in which your data is ingested. Because then you'll see change in slope, right? Where you want to see that spike in the line or dip in the line, those big events. And ultimately, you need a way to baseline and then compare each new partition or daily interval snapshot to the baseline. And those basics, we think if you don't get those right, you're probably not going to be successful. Because I would ask a similar question. How come all of these data quality programs have been going on for probably a decade or more, yet they're not ending, right? And they're not really getting that much better and more money is being put in there. What we found was you simply cannot write or manage all of the rules you would really need. Maybe a simple example of that would be zip codes and state codes. You could have a valid zip code, your rule runs and that column's good. And you have valid state codes, your rule runs, that column's good. But how do you know that a Pennsylvania zip code isn't sitting next to a New York state code or something like that, right? So then you end up having this factorial problem and you end up needing record level detection, not just column level rule writing. And then it just goes on and on and on from there. And when we lay out this matrix of what we think it really takes, if you can't do massive scale time series profiling to understand what just happened last night in your business has never happened before, and not wait next month for another profiling project to start. We call this continuous profiling, or not wait until the next person writes a rule. That's all very prone to just human error, human understanding, and just time. So we have sort of a methodology that if anybody wants to follow up, I guess, and kind of watch our videos or subscribe to what that is. And it's really that you need to be able to replay data in the rhythm in which it's ingested and let a tool actually expose to you those changes, start to learn and understand those changes. And then you have a shot at doing what we call becoming incrementally smarter each day. That's a huge thing for us. We don't believe somebody can sit down, write 9,000 rules, wait 3 or 4 months for teams of people to do this, and then all of those rules are just going to maintain themselves or remain high quality. They actually diminish in value because every day your data is growing, Cyber Monday shopping happens, trade breaks, holidays. There's just too much nuance in real data sets to kind of assume that we could really write and manage this many rules anymore. And that's part of our belief of why the space is almost lagging. It was almost ripe for a little bit of disruption because it was just too reactive and too manual.
Yeah, absolutely. And it also sounds like that methodology of, and kind of motto of getting smarter a little bit more smart every day can hopefully help leaders and members of data teams not feel like they're already on a runaway train and it's kind of too late to catch up on your data quality, that there is a kind of way of bringing it into your everyday practice, which isn't too much of a beast to tackle.
I was just going to say, I think there's this new wave in software. I think CDOs, chief data officers, are getting sort of numb to the fact that every project's going to take a year or 3 years. Right? They did that the last 5 or 10 years, and there's definitely a need for faster time to value, and to say, hey, let's start with the data, start scanning it, and just have it reveal to me what it is, and maybe we'll learn the rules we need to write, or just put something in place quickly and see if it works, and then iterate from there. While I do believe there's still these massive enterprise projects going on, and they're valuable, there are a lot of cases I think where people now want to see a quick win, and they want to really see what they could solve for the business sooner than later. And so I think that's playing into it as well. I think a lot of people took the first pass, even with some AI and ML projects, but they weren't focused on a problem space specific like data quality, where you'd really get a lot of value in the first 10 minutes out of it. So that's what we're seeing actually, is a 50% reduction in time to value. So for us, that's good. We're getting more value in a lot less time. And we think that that's what's helping us with the kind of quick logo growth, so to speak.
Yeah, certainly. I'm sure everyone's sick of feeling like transformation is just a never ending, like this is just how we are now. And how are you guys kind of providing that massive, quick time to value? What's kind of in Calibra's DQ tooling that kind of, like you said, almost within 10 minutes, you can see some results?
Yeah, by automating the rules and learning from the data, a lot of times you connect to a database, to a database, I'd say. Then you go down to the schema level, the table level. If the data set has been there for a while, weeks on end, months on end, the data is there. So a lot of people used to start with taxonomies or writing rules or thinking about hierarchies, and I'd say that's all slow. Now you just start with, I'm connected to the database table, for lack of a better name. It could be a CSV file, what have you. And you click run. It's one click. And it creates your profile. It does replay analysis, what if analysis. It sort of brings these insights and observations to bear right in front of you. Now, the challenge with that is it's going to be a little bit noisier than you're used to. Ignorance was bliss in the old world, where if you didn't write the rule, guess what? You were 100% passing. But that's really not a good risk profile for companies, and they've realized that ignoring data sets, it does not mean you're 100% passing. It's closer to meaning you're 100% failing. So what it does is it raises all of this awareness about the data set and the columns and the schemas and the outliers and the duplicates and all of these things that are going wrong. And then you sort of just hone in from there. But it becomes very easy for a data person or a business analyst to say, I like this, I do not like this. We provide the thumbs up, thumbs down, those types of things. And that quick feedback, which is much faster than rule writing, starts to retrain the model on exactly what you expect to get out of this as a data quality model. It's just such a more fun and interactive approach than sitting there and staring at an Excel sheet or a database table and saying, I'm going to start writing rules. What we found was most people don't even write rules syntactically correct. They have to pick a language in which they're going to write the rules in. Sometimes that's proprietary by the vendor that sold them the product. And they ultimately just become locked into who they can hire and how many rules they can write. And I think it just immediately detracts from the value that they could have gotten 5 minutes in. So, like I said, not that we don't have a long way to grow ourselves as well, but it's that first awareness and insight layer that just starts to reveal everything and kind of makes that process more fun.
Yeah, I mean, Maria, you've been on the ground, rule writing, kind of doing that manual side. I think we've spoken before collectively about this idea of build or buy, kind of buying in and getting that immediate value versus building something that maybe might be slightly cheaper to begin with, but is very time consuming. I mean, Maria, how's it been kind of on the ground in a few different organizations doing that kind of
Yes.
brunt work at times?
Yeah. So I've kind of used both a bought tool and an in-house tool, and obviously both have got their benefits, their perks, and both work. It's not like they're bad tools at all. But what I found when I very first used Calibra DQ and did exactly what you said, Kirk, I pressed run, and I had lines and lines and lines of like patterns and outliers and things like that, which I could look through, and almost it was, like you said, a bit interactive. I could tick things or cross things in real time, press rerun, and I would see my data quality score change in front of me. in the past, when I have worked on data quality solutions, I've been there for maybe 3-4 weeks building data quality rules. And obviously, I think it was good experience for me, understanding the world of rule writing. And I think there's still a place for that, because if you dive into a tool like Calibra DQ, it does do a lot of the work for you, and that is basically what a business needs. But if you're coming into it fresh like me, I think it's also good to have that opportunity to build the rules and understand what you're doing and how it's benefiting and what it's meaning for the data and how that might be affecting business decisions. So, which I know obviously Calibra DQ can do as well. I know that functionality is there. So yeah, I've experienced both, and I would definitely say Calibra DQ has been the quickest that I have used. But yeah, the other tools obviously do the job. But I think you have to be obviously a lot smarter with it and understand what you're doing and have that context in order to make sure that you're actually creating and doing what the business needs, rather than having something that, with a click of the button, you've got your a good 65% of your rules built for you. So yeah, take from that as you will.
Yeah, I mean, but it sounds like, I think what's really important about having that kind of baseline of maybe 65%, like I think that's kind of, is that the DQ, Calibra DQ kind of average automated rules I think it produces? With that 35% where you have to be a bit more nuanced and smart about it, it's so valuable that you have more time to spend going through those nuances and using your experience. I mean, I think we've all kind of spoken about, tools are great, but they're not the answer. You always need smart, educated, passionate staff to do the work around them. What does a tool like this mean for staff when you've kind of freed up your time? How, Maria, have you found yourself using your time better? Or for Kirk, how have you found customers kind of being able to better use their staff around these tools and kind of make the most of talent and skill?
I think for me, I've not had as much experience as Kirk for sure, using Calibra DQ, but for me, first of all, understanding the tool, even though, like you said, it's quite busy. There's a lot there to understand, but that's because it produces a lot of information. So yeah, getting to grips with just the end to end of this is how you create your profile and this is how you create your data quality solution is pretty straightforward. And I was thinking, wow, that's took me 5 minutes, while before I've worked on projects 6 months building data quality solutions. So, that's quite a difference. So I think putting data sources into Calibra DQ, you can have an output by the end of the day for every single data source that you're interested in. If someone is willing to sit there and make all the connections, which is not that particularly difficult to set up. So yeah, I can definitely see how it would have saved me a lot of time in projects in the past.
Well, I would agree with Maria that I don't think any tool really fully removes a human or analyst or DQ person. Their knowledge is always going to be valuable, right? The domain knowledge. A lot of times you're joining multiple data sets, you're netting out positions, you're looking at patient health data. Our goal actually in the product is not really to remove humans, but to remove the low level work that no one finds a lot of value in, that a machine can automate easily and find all of those breaking trends, anomalies, and issues, and automate a lot of the rule writing process. So I would say ours is more of a vision more than maybe anything else, but we'd like to see the people that get the 65% of their time back use it to clean the data, right? Go upstream, look at the root cause. For us with Calibra now, we have lineage. So the left side of the lineage graph is actually where the data quality problem is coming from. And the right side is the business impact. So I think the future to me is about, if I had 20 data quality issues and I only had time to do one of them, resolve one thing today, wouldn't it be great if I could then rank them? And we're getting to that now where we can risk rank and say, well, 19 of them don't have a lot of impact downstream, but this one really does. It flows into about 20 other downstream data sets, reports, what have you. And then use the person's time to do that, right? To actually track that one down, resolve it. Because I actually believe the data quality problem is so big, you're probably not going to get rid of people anytime soon. But what you could be better at is using their time more wisely And then I think if you could track the health of an organization, you truly see the health of the organization increase or go up in health and quality. The world right now is in this place where so many people are manual and reactive and writing the rules. It takes them so long to surface the issues, and then they're understaffed to actually go and clean the issues. So if anything for us, we think this is a step in that direction and a repurpose of high value work.
Definitely, it sounds like not only you're kind of saving on employee time, but also building employee satisfaction. If you get a bit more time to spend on more rewarding work, then you're kind of helping retain a team and building a team who have a stronger awareness of what's actually going on in the business, feel connected to it, and are kind of a bit more bought into what you're trying to do. And speaking of that team and the work they're doing, what do organizations need to do to prepare for DQ when it comes to building the team who are able to implement it? What kind of professionals should they be looking for? Graduates, how do you see them fitting into the space? How can they build a strong DQ team?
Well, Maria might have a better answer than me on this one, because I think she's out there building these DQ teams. But I think the technical knowledge is still a good thing to look out for in today's world. It's just so much of it has moved to technical. One thing we're doing well, I think, in the Calibra DQ product line is the entire language is SQL. Whether we derive it using machine learning or outlier detection, we actually reverse engineer it into ANSI compliant SQL so that you're always reading and writing SQL. By doing that, we hope to lock people in with value instead of proprietariness. And so what that means is you could take your rules and go run them in your database. You could take them out of the tool if the tool doesn't provide you enough value. We think that's a good first step because most analysts and technical people would be able to read and write SQL, probably more so than Java or Python or some other language we could invent. So I think that's sort of the first step. We definitely see the role of the steward, right? The data steward, the data governance person, the data quality analyst. But each company sort of organizes those teams a little bit differently. So maybe I'll be interested to hear more from Maria how you see that, if it's horizontal, if it's vertically aligned to the business. But I would say I've seen every flavor of that. But ultimately, to me, the biggest paradigm shift is I would definitely look for technical skill sets, even though it is a business-facing tool. And I think SQL is a language worth getting comfortable with if I was going to pick a language that I would want to center around, because I do think it's achievable to share SQL.
I completely agree with that. I think, all the tools that I've looked at are SQL or very, very similar to SQL. And I completely agree. I think your technical team needs to be able to pick up the tool, work with the tool, obviously have the SQL knowledge. But what I also think is important is actually having that full data management understanding, because like we said at the beginning, data quality is just a part of the world of data. You've got to have your data quality, you've got to have your lineage, you've got to have your integrity. You don't have to be an expert in all these things, but at least having an understanding, knowing who to talk to, helps put that well-rounded picture into place. So when you're going ahead and putting together your data quality for a particular solution or particular team, I think having that well-rounded view is so important to make sure that you can look at the different perspectives and how in the long term this might affect certain other things or certain other projects that will take place. Having a data management consultant in my perspective is like the perfect person to go in, because you get an understanding of data management, data governance, and how data quality kind of fits within that, and brings full data governance like framework into a business, and make sure you do it right the first time.
Yeah, absolutely. We've all been on those kind of projects. Just to wrap things up quickly, I'd love to hear first from Maria, just in your kind of first few years out in the space, what have you found most rewarding about being in data quality? Kind of how much of an impact have you already been able to have? And then Kirk, just to round things off, kind of what are you most excited about for the space going forwards? And kind of any last words from your perspective? Yeah, fab. Maria, last words.
Yes, cool. Cool. So Yeah, my experience so far, obviously, I'm still very early on in my career. I think I've got many more years ahead of me working in the world of data quality and data management. For me, like I was a maths graduate, so I've always been interested in problem solving and puzzles and things like that. And I feel like data quality kind of fits into that. You know, you're looking for the issues and trying to find them, and then obviously in the end solve them. And it's kind of a little puzzle every time, and it's quite rewarding. Even if it's just small, it's very rewarding finding them and helping improve something for a business, knowing that you actually did that. So yeah, I feel like when I started my work, I was getting that a lot. It wasn't always happy times. It's definitely a roller coaster, because as well as the good times, obviously you have to battle with your SQL code, make sure you get it right. You know, it's got to work. Make sure your end-to-end is correct. Make sure your connection's correct. Make sure the security and privacy is in place. So there's a lot more stuff around it that you have to think about. But yeah, for me, it's all a little steps in a big puzzle, and I like that type of thing. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Maria. Yeah, and Kirk, what's kind of exciting about the space next, and what can we kind of maybe hope to see from Calibra DQ in the coming year or so?
Yeah, that's right. Well, I mean, we get excited about software, right? We dedicated everything to this mission. So many areas. I'll tease out a couple here. One, if you could dream about connecting to Snowflake, logging in, and all of your data quality is already in place without having to click that one button. We've already made it sort of down to 2 clicks, but if we could get it down to 0 clicks, which, spoiler alert, is coming. So what we're talking about is really native push down into these cloud databases where we already have integrations with what they would call their time slices or date partitioning. We're already able to get this information back from them, and we're working closely with them so that maybe just the first time you log in, everything's already in place. So just really cutting that time to value in half again, where you could say, I'm just adding a data quality layer on top of my cloud database. So we're super excited about that, and more to check in with us, late Q3. We'll see if we're on schedule. And the other one is back to your other question a little bit about personas and how to organize a data quality line of business, so to speak, or inside of your line of business. That's a bigger challenge than we thought coming in. We came into the industry to solve the rule writing and automation process, but the big problem is actually no one knows whose fault it is, whose job it is. Everyone wants access to the data, wants to use the data. And a lot of people don't want to contribute back to the health of the data, right? So that's what Maria's team goes in there and tries to figure out how to organize that. And we found that that's a bigger challenge than we thought. So a little bit of gamification coming to say, you're doing a good job. You're writing a lot of rules. You're resolving a lot of issues. You're helping the organization be healthier. I think those awards and badges aren't really there today. It's just a painful job of data quality. So you're looking for a tool to make it better. But the tool, I think, can also do a better job of which role or persona are you going to play, and are there models coming in the future for how we would opt in to kind of like subscribing to we're all going to play a part in better data health.
We always like stick.
Yeah, so exciting. I mean, on the cloud front, everyone's, if you're moving to cloud now or kind of already on that journey, it's like the perfect time to coincide that with data quality. And as well, I think we've been talking so much lately with all of our clients and consultants about data literacy and data culture, and how to get that buy-in. But, if there's something gamified in there, then hopefully that also helps those teams spread that data culture as well throughout the business. So pretty much the perfect time for it as well. Amazing. Well, thank you both so much for your time. This has been incredibly insightful. So I really appreciate you joining me on Kubrick Voices today. We'll hopefully get some interesting conversations going within our clients and our consultants as well. Thanks everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kai.
Bye.